A mighty oak has fallen and left an empty, lonely space against the sky. That's why we're here today. We will fill that void with our memories. Good morning. I'm Jim Perman, a friend of Tom's since the moment we met 5 years ago. It was a natural meeting. He taught me about Irish shtick. I supplied him with Yiddish blarney. This morning I had to be here for the McCanns because Tom was always there for me, as he was for you. The McCanns were among the very first people we met here. And I will always remember the day Jane and I were touring the campus. Carol welcomed us into her gracious home. It assured us that we had made the right choice in moving here. And in getting to know Tom and Carol, I have never been more certain in choosing new friends. And that's why it came as such a jolt nearly 8 weeks ago when he died so suddenly. Nobody anticipated this. It was as if he had simply gotten up and walked out of this world. And it's only now that we're beginning to absorb the reality of his absence. This morning we choose to celebrate his life. We can bring him back, if only for this hour. We are told that we don't really remember people as they actually are. We remember them as they were with us, as we were with them. We're always in the picture when we remember them. So let's pause for a moment right now with Tom, speaking to us, dining with us, sitting at a meeting with us. Just try remembering what that moment was like. These are the sweet memories that we recall this morning. These are the memories we need to hold to fill that empty space against the sky. A celebration of life is something fairly new in American life. It doesn't in any way take the place of mourning his loss. We are not denying our grief or our sadness. We know that his passing is a terrible loss to our Moorings Park community, and to us personally as his friends and neighbors, and of course even more so for his family. We shall always miss his presence among us. Today is not intended to be a funeral, not in any formal sense. It doesn't have a fixed liturgy. There are no physical remains here. It reflects Tom's upbringing and family heritage, as it certainly should. It is mostly an exercise of our memories, an act of love for Tom. And as we move through the program this morning, those closest and dearest to him will remind us of different aspects of his life. As we listen, we will gradually see a clearer picture of this remarkable man. So let's begin. Eileen Connolly Kiesler, a colleague and dear friend to Tom.
Thank you. Good morning. Don't panic. It's kind of a prop, actually. So I had a laugh when I came in, and I'm going to tell you why. But when people talk about a life well lived, they often talk about accomplishments. And Tom certainly had many. He served on countless boards, supported hundreds of nonprofits, and gave his time and wisdom to strengthen this community in most ways people will never fully see. I know I'm one of the many people who could stand here today and tell a story about how he helped them, he guided them, he simply showed them kindness when they needed it most. Tom's dedication to the Community Foundation was extraordinary. Many years on the board, then continuing on the Emeriti board, and so many years as MC of Celebration of Philanthropy. He loved that role. He especially loved the banter between his co-chairs like Dottie Garrity, and you could always tell he was in his element when he got a laugh. The spark, the joy, the connection with people, that was so purely Tom. Tom was the board chair when I was hired. Frequently took credit for being here. And he was the person who closed the deal. My husband always says, he's a closer. That guy's a closer. Honestly, it changed my husband's and my life. He will never know how much. But over the years, he was not just a board chair or mentor. He was someone I could go to when things were hard. When I was worried, he listened. When I was overwhelmed, he offered perspective. And when I cried, and it happened a lot the first few months of my new job, he was there for me. He'd pick me up in the parking lot, hand me a box of Kleenex. And I was kind of laughing when I saw that today. I was like, okay, Tom, last box of Kleenex from you. I'm taking it with me, Carol. I just want you to know that. And he'd say, it's going to be okay, kiddo. And anybody who knew Tom, he used that kiddo word all the time. My staff were kind of laughing about it, going, kiddo. It makes us feel young. He'd always go, kiddo, like we were young. Now, something you might not know about Tom, he had a real gift when it came to connecting to women. And I say that with a smile, because many men in this room right now are thinking, I connect with women. Some do, most don't. But Tom had it. And I'm not sure if it came from his mother. Maybe Carol helped fine-tune him right when they were married. Or maybe it was just intuition for him. Although I would probably put my money on Carol if I had to pick one of the three. But wherever it came from, it was just part of who he was. I watched him in conversations with women. He instinctively knew when to listen, when to speak, and when to offer advice. He paid attention not just to words, but to tones, to expressions. He just got it. And for years, I'd hear stories of women who talked to him, would come to see him, needed his advice. He was there for them. Tom listened carefully when someone had a problem. He was the kind of person who made people feel like whatever they were going through really mattered. that you were the most important person at that moment, and he made you feel seen, helped people feel supported. That's who he was. Thoughtful, patient, caring. He left our community better than it was, and it's stronger because of him. So many organizations, so many causes, so many people benefited from his generosity of his time, wisdom, and heart. His legacy isn't just the organizations he served. His legacy is the people he lifted along the way. I'll always be grateful. I had a chance to work with him, to learn from him, to call him my friend. And to Carol and the family, thank you for sharing him with us. Tom, we love you. We miss you.
Steve Weisberg, Dr. Stephen Weisberg, is one of Tom's oldest friends.
Two very tough acts to follow. Thank you, Eileen. And we'll talk later. I would call Tom on his cell phone in the morning, and I'd say, "Tom, good morning, it's Steve." And he'd say, "Laddie, how are you?" "Laddie?" Jewish guys don't get called Laddie. It was a term of endearment. It let me know that I was welcomed. It let me know that I could see that wonderful smile of his. I could see the Irish twinkle in his eyes. Tom told me he loved me. I told him I loved him. That's pretty good for two straight guys. Eileen talked about love and home and his mother. I think his mother, Evelyn, was very important in helping him develop values. Unfortunately, his father died at an early age, and he spent time living with his mom, and he told me that was a very important time for him. He loved and tried to emulate his older brothers, especially you, Mike, because you were closer in age than he was to your brother and sister. And when I think of Tom and Carol, I think the love that they have, they share the concept, love thy neighbor as thyself. And both of them made themselves and make themselves available to our community. And together they have made our community better and better and better. Tom's education was very important because he had a Jesuit education in high school, in college at Marquette, Milwaukee, and Georgetown Law. But the interesting thing about Tom, unlike many attorneys, he did not choose the path of having adversarial relations. He brought people together. He cared about people. He did not enter, either in the workplace or in our community, adversarial relations. For both Carol and Tom, in family and in organizations, I think of the prophet Hill from the Old Testament, who said, "If I am not for myself, who will be? If I am only for myself, who am I? And if not now, when?" And I believe Carol and Tom lived that life for others, and they did it now. They didn't wait for another time. Together, they had love and empathy and caring and the love of family. Tom admired you so, Carol. These last couple of years in the residence and caring program, which is what Moorings Park is all about, to have residents involved in caring for their neighbors. It reflects on your training as a nurse, your empathy, and your organizational skills. Tom told me about children and grandchildren. He didn't keep things from me. TJ, he admired you so because he said all his kids and grandkids were smart. He didn't use brilliant, but he repeated he repeated smart a lot. He admired you because you too had a life of service and service to the government. He told me you could go anywhere. You were bright and capable. You could go anywhere. He admired you for serving our government. And Mike, I know about the companies you've been with. I know about the programs you initiated in each company and the good that you did. And he admired you so for all of that, and especially these last couple of years when you have studied about AI and you teach others about AI. And that made him very, very proud of you. He talked about your resilience, but I think the fact that you're sharing knowledge and information with individuals and companies, that reflects how your dad would be. And Mary, you were the apple of his eye. He loved you, and you love your family, and keep the love going in your family. And the grandchildren, I know you. I know where you lived, where you go to school, when you graduated, where you're working. The problem is when I talk to you and like Vance this morning, I get this crick in my neck. I have a problem with my cervical spine, and I'm going to ask you guys to sit down, and I'll stand and talk to you so we'll be at eye level. His community involvement began, as you can read, the NAACP, was chair at 29, involved with the BSO, the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and the Berkshires. Naples, Eileen has told us about the Community Foundation, and yes, Eileen, he took credit for your being hired. He loved you. He absolutely loved you. And in my opinion, whether Tom knew it or not only did he live his values, but I believe his involvement in the community allowed him to have a multiplier, that he could take his values and put them out into the community. Carol does it as well. Together they do that. That is so unique. One, to have the values that he had, and the other, to share them with all of us. He did not take the chairmanship of organizations for power or control, and certainly not for money, but to share his values. And we all benefited from it. Whether it was the botanical gardens, and he also took credit for bringing Donna on board, but he wanted all of us to share in the beauty of Naples. And as we look out, we see the beautiful flowers on trees. The purple flowers out here are magnificent. And where else could we be living? Where in March, we're seeing flowers on trees. They're beautiful, and the grounds of Morgan's Park are beautiful. He really saw the beauty in our community, and he wanted us to share in it. He was active in GNL because GNL, Greater Naples Leadership, introduces us to the nonprofits and encourages us to get involved with them. I asked him when he was done being chair and responsibilities at the Garden to join the executive group of the Naples discussion group. I brought him with me to FGCU to propose to the dean that we share our speakers with FGCU so that the community and our university would be connected. It would benefit the faculty, the students, the community. I brought Tom because Tom had wisdom. He was a terrific problem solver, and he could articulate the message. And he was a good closer. And we sold it. But when we came back and said, that we had hoped we'd get recommendations from the faculty about speakers they would like from the colleges and universities around the state, the dean said, well, we have a problem. And what's the problem? Well, you're the Naples men's discussion group. And the female professors won't get involved if it's a men's group. Tom and I are driving back from FGCU to Naples, and we turned to each other at the same time and said, that's it. It's the Naples discussion group. Trudy said we waited too long, and she's right. Tom was a mensch. Now, for those of you who don't have your iPhones and an AI bot helping you, a mensch is someone with integrity, with honor, with decency. It is doing the right thing when it is not easy. It is being responsible and dependable. It is showing kindness, respect, and consideration of others. It is having a strong moral character. In closing, I want to share a statement on love by the French philosopher and writer Simone de Beauvoir. I see Steve Mason and Ricky, and I know they speak French. I'm not sure I'm ever going to pronounce that correctly. She said, one's life has value so long as one attributes value to the life of others. One's life has value so long as one attributes value to the life of others. That's Tom McCann. That's Carol. That's how the two of you live your life. May his memory be a blessing.
You filled my world with love and laughter. You brought the light to darkest days. You always gave your love so free from the start. You always walked right by my side. You were the one who made life joyful. You were the one who gave your heart. A beautiful soul who graced my life from the start. A beautiful love that blessed my days. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I'd like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I've got it all here in my mind. I want you to know I know the truth, course I know. I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I'd like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I'd like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings.
We're now going to hear from Tom's greatest legacy, his children. Tom, okay. I got it. Tom was the right kind of dad. He knew when to control, he knew when to let go. And in so doing, he allowed his children to blossom and become who they are. And we're going to hear from them now. First, TJ.
Good morning. As Jim said, I'm Tom's oldest son. I won't repeat the other thing he said about me. You might have heard people up here and elsewhere call me TJ. If you can believe it, some people call me the shorter son. I don't know where that's coming from. In the interest of time, my remarks will also be short today, because I know we're going to have lots of opportunity to exchange stories about Dad over a trio after the ceremony. But I do have a couple memories about my dad that I'd like to highlight today, and as Jim said, maybe hopefully bring him back for an hour today. We'll see if we can get that going. First, there's the most talked about characteristic of his, which is that he was big, both literally and figuratively. The day he was born, he weighed 12 pounds. 12. We called his mother a saint for many reasons. For context, the average weight of a newborn is 7.5 pounds. So he was basically 1.5 babies when he entered the world. And every day after that, when he entered a room, he entered like 1.5 people. You didn't just get Tom, you got Tom and a half. If you were ever in a really loud restaurant with him, or your hearing aid was on the fritz, you'd be okay, because he would always let you know, oh boy. Right, page 2 is missing. Fancy that. Okay. Anyway, so he was a big guy. Of course, we've talked about his... Mike, do you have a piece of paper there? Oh. Oh.
You have my page too.
Thanks. So he had a really big laugh. The great thing about him was that you were with him, he would be in a loud restaurant, he'd always tell you when the right time is to laugh. Because he would always punctuate his jokes with laughter. Holy moly. Okay. When I was younger, I kind of looked askance at his practice because, he would always, with the jokes at the end of his, laughter at the end of his jokes, when he'd meet my friends, they would say, all right, it's time for the Henny and Ethel show, because of course, my parents act like Henny Youngman and Ethel Merman. Whenever they come into town, they'd blow into town and they'd be doing their act, and my mom would be doing her Ethel Merman shtick. There's no business like show business, like no business I know. And Dad would be right next to her, dishing out the one-liners like Henny Youngman, saying like, oh, I tell Carol she's embraced her mistakes, so she gave me a hug. Ha 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 ha. I mean, the guy, it was great. I mean, it'd cue you in all the time, you knew exactly what you were supposed to do. When I was younger, I kind of looked askance at this practice, thinking that it was kind of a bit too close to self-promotion. But I came to realize that actually he was really working hard to make something meaningful, something special with whoever he was interacting with. He was working to break down the barriers between us and make a connection where we could share some of the joy of life together through laughter. And it's not an easy task to keep the balls in the air and the hula hoop spinning on your ankle. But he'd put that work in all the time. He loved doing that, so he could spark some communion with others through laughter. This served as a great lesson to me that the responsibility for my experience with other people is up to me. And if I want that experience to be positive, one, I have the power to do it, but also it's up to me to put in the effort to make it so. And he did that all the time. Of course, words were Dad's tools for forging these special connections with others, and he sought to wield those tools with flair. He had an infectious love of language, which he inspired in all of us kids. Dad relished words that were fervid, fecund, gravid with imagery, oleaginous, slick-sounding words like unguent and lubricious, or desiccated, scabrous-sounding words like wizened and brittle. They say the Irish have a prosaic palate when it comes to food, but Dad loved to pepper his stories with graphic words so that in this story, you could smell the mucid funk of the boxcars he cleaned out in the summers in Milwaukee. Or in a story about an African safari that he went on, he'd tell you, the lion approached within 20 feet of my open-air Jeep, and as it locked eyes with me, I felt the icy hand of fear grip my viscera. It's a character. But as entertaining as this could be, there was a dodgy side to his love of words. He was notorious for sinking to the more lamentable depths of language, like puns and malapropisms. Perhaps his favorite guilty pleasure was composing doggerel, which is basically janky verse that loiters somewhere in the limbo between a poor man's poem and a rich man's limerick. On special occasions like birthdays or anniversaries, he might recite a bit of this tortured rhyme to the groaning, reluctant delight of those gathered around him. In fact, Dad may have told you about the high point of his doggerel career. I once recited a bit of doggerel to the Crown Princess of Thailand. And you may have dismissed him with, yeah, and I played the ukulele for the Sheik of Araby. Go sell it somewhere else. But there actually is a Crown Princess of Thailand, and Dad actually did compose and recite a work of doggerel for the princess at a private dinner, because somehow Henny and Ethel always find center stage. Now, this isn't normal behavior, right? I mean, how many people travel around the world to Asia? They take the trip, they suddenly find themselves hamming it up for the local royalty there. These two lived like they were in some zany Bob Hope and Bing Crosby movie. I can see them leaving for their trip now. Come on, Carol, we're off on the road to old Thailand. And there they were, these two characters doing their act for the Crown Princess. And as you'd expect, the performance was received to great acclaim, and they were the hit of the night. So as an homage to Dad and one of his favorite forms of art, I'll close with a short piece of doggerel in his memory. One Homeric regaler was our own Tom McCann, sometimes called a giant, but other times, that loud man. A hail fellow well met, with a greeting most cheery. He'd buck up his friends with a, hello, laddie, hey, dearie. The most fortunate of men, he'd met his Carol quite soon. She loosed opened his heart swiftly, like a laxative prune. With booming guffaws, he'd crack jokes at Moorings Park, to revel in the laughter that his own roarings spark. It was a stretch. But in his zeal to share joy, he'd fly close to the sun, abetting wordplay of all classes, even the pedestrian. He'd traffic in doggerel, he'd perpetrate puns. His barbarous witticisms would queeze even the Huns. But his talents were our treasure, a prize of divine bestowal. Because with God's gifts, Tom powered us like a dynamo for the soul. So thank heaven for this big life, shared with spirit, warmth, and class. We commend you to God now, Tom McCann, for all great things must pass. My dad.
Tom was incredibly thorough in everything that he did. And when I met with family, I said, try to figure out the sequence of speakers that you want to invite for this gathering. And everybody said, okay, we'll think about it. And then in an email I got from Michael, I got a full-page spreadsheet with an entire page of footnotes in 6-point type. So, Michael.
Good morning. I'm Mike, the tall son. So you've heard about the leader, the friend, the civic and community champion, and the man who could bring levity to any room. I want to talk about my dad as a family man and what it was like to grow up with him. I thought I'd start with a story that he loved to tell because it says a lot about who he was. So he was driving up to the house in the Berkshires one Friday night to meet my mom, classical music on as usual. And this was his ritual. 2 hours in the car with the masters, perhaps reflecting on how far he'd come from his modest beginnings in Milwaukee as a boy. About 20 minutes out, he pulls up to a toll booth, hands the money to the attendant, and the guy smiles and says, "Beethoven, huh? I love his music." Now, you all know my dad. He was not mean-spirited. Lifting himself by lowering others was simply not in him. My dad gently responded, "Ooh, actually it's Mozart." And he held up the Mozart case from the middle console with a small encouraging smile, almost like a chuck on the shoulder and, like a, hey, keep at it, you'll get it. But really well intended. He's not a mean guy. So as he pulled away, he wondered if he shouldn't have corrected the toll taker. But upon reflection, he felt good that he advanced the guy's learning quest, even in the smallest way. So as he rolled into the driveway and shut off the car, he reached down to eject the cassette, and to his horror, the tape read classic Beethoven. And so through his chagrin in that moment and over the many years that followed, my dad often wondered how the toll taker played that encounter back to his wife at dinner. And he told that story for years, really drawing it out to a crescendo that would end with him wheezing with laughter. And really, that was my dad. He loved telling stories. He loved to laugh, even when it was at himself. So now most of you here today know my dad from the last chapter of his life. And what you didn't get to see, what TJ and Mary and I got to live, was what he was like when we were growing up. And my dad had a unique relationship with each of us. TJ was the level-headed one. My dad used to say he'd be a judge someday because even as a kid, T had this innate sense of justice. He became a lawyer, which wasn't far off, and my dad always trusted him and him alone to have solid judgment to do the right thing. And we enjoyed perhaps a bit more freedom as kids because of it. Now, Mary was his princess, except he called her Printense, and that's because that's how she said it when she was little, and he never let it go. They say there's something special between a father and his daughter, and that was absolutely true with my dad and Mary. And then there was me. My unique role and talent was that I drove him absolutely crazy. I had what you might call a sharp mouth, and still do, actually, and a real gift for pushing his buttons. When communicating with my dad, I lived by the 3 C's, correct, counter, and contradict. There were a couple of choice phrases that my dad used to say when I got under his skin. One was, "Michael, I hope you have 2 kids just like you." And over time, that number grew to eventually 4, 5, 10. And the other one, which was usually delivered with a bit more volume, was, "Michael, I'm going to put you through 8 walls." Now, just to be clear, he never laid a hand on us, and he really was all bark and all bite. And I was talking with someone last night how he could get that temper up and just come right back down just like that. But as I look back, one of the most amazing things about those childhood years was how present my dad was. He coached all of our teams. He took us on Disney trips, vacations, and weeks-long cross-country RV tours with his beautiful co-pilot, and was a consistent presence at the family dinner table every night. And the remarkable part was that we didn't fully realize everything else he was doing. Through all this, he was leading organizations, serving on boards, and shaping his community in ways that we barely realized at the time. But we never really felt that pull away from us. He seemed fully present. And here's something that I think helps explain why. So my dad, as I think Steve mentioned, my dad lost his father when he was 14. And his father had been in a serious accident and was partially crippled, living in a lot of pain. And because of that, my dad and his siblings weren't allowed to have friends over. They had to be quiet, and the house wasn't really a place where kids could just be kids. And I don't know if he ever said this explicitly, but somewhere along the way, my dad made a decision that he was going to build something different. And he did quite literally. Our house had a pool, a tennis court, and a full court basketball setup in the driveway. On any given afternoon, there might be a pickup game on one end and a tennis match going on the other. And our friends weren't just welcome, they were expected. One of my closest friends, Pat, and actually, if you're watching Pat on the live stream, my dad says hi. Pat lost his mother to cancer. His mom was in home hospice for nearly a year, and Pat essentially lived with us during that time. And my dad never made a speech about it. He didn't need to. The door was open, and that was the statement. That was him and my mom in action. I really think my dad became the father that he himself didn't have, and we were the beneficiaries of that every day. If there's one thing that may have defined him even more than that, was his relationship with my mom. And we just heard Wind Beneath My Wings. That was beautiful. Thank you, Audrey. That was his song for her, and that's why we wanted to make sure we included it today. That's how he saw her, and he literally spoke those words. My dad would have been perfectly happy seeing the world from a hop-on, hop-off bus. But my mom loved adventure, and because she loved it, he made it his mission to give it to her. And so that meant riding elephants in Nepal, tracking blue-footed boobies in the Galapagos, hiking up to glaciers and down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and sitting for hours in a tree stand in Africa waiting for something, anything to happen. And that was love his way, and she returned it in so many ways. For instance, if you ever watched my mom, when my dad was telling a story or one of his many jokes, you'd see her sitting there completely locked in, smiling, hanging on every word. And even though she heard every one of those jokes about 100 times, she still laughed harder than anyone, except maybe him. And as our family grew, those same instincts to show up, to create something meaningful, extended out even further. My dad just didn't love his wife and kids. Kathy, Heather, and Vance, he didn't treat them like in-laws. They were part of his clan. And when his first grandchild was still on the way, my son Jack, he made a decision that said so much about who he was. He bought into the Disney Vacation Club, and not because he was dying to go to Disney, but because he wanted all of us together. And while he wasn't the one rolling on the ground on the floor with the grandkids, he wanted to make sure we had a place to go and a reason to gather and memories that would last for decades. And that's what Poppy did. He brought us together. So as I wrap up, I wanted to share a cruel irony that occurred to me the other day. So those of you that knew my dad from his civic work knew that governance was a particular passion of him. And I'm pretty sure my dad never turned down a chance to chair something. So I imagine it's a little frustrating for him that the place he's headed doesn't have a governance committee. And I'm told that the governance up there is already in pretty good hands. But knowing him, he'll find a way to make himself useful. And when we all join him, we'll no doubt find a place that's a little bit better than the way he found it. Dad, I wish I could have said goodbye, but in a way, you haven't really left us. In the weeks since you passed, we've had way more laughter than tears, and there seems to be no end to the stories and the memories and the catchphrases and the reminiscences, and that says so much about who you were and the effect that you had on your family and everyone else who was lucky enough to get to know you.
There really is a special connection between fathers and daughters. And I can tell you that we heard more stories about Mary than anyone else. And we loved them, we repeated them. And the idea that Mary alone was able to feed an entire football team with the minimum requirement of 5,000 calories per day each, and be surrounded by all this testosterone. So she was her father's darling, and here she is.
In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember you. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember you. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember you. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember you. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember you. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember you. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember you. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember you. So long as we live, you shall live, for you are now a part of us. We remember you. Amen. Someone said that
You don't have to be Irish to identify and to understand that. It's true. Grandchildren are the dividends of our investment. And whereas their parents may become exasperated with them, they can do no wrong in our eyes. And 3 of them today will be doing scriptural readings. And we start with Jack, then Brian, then Spencer.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today. A reading from Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
Good morning or good afternoon, wherever it is. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God. Believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I am going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going, so how can we know the way? Jesus answered, I am the way, and the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Amen.
A reading from the letter of Paul to the Romans. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble, or hardship, or persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or danger, or sword? As it is written, for your sake we face trials all day long. We are counted among those who suffer. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation, will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen.
As you've heard, the family has invited everyone to the reception following the service at Trio, and it's right across the way. It's a short walk. We came and we listened, we understood. And the main takeaway we've learned this morning is Tom had a really good life. First and foremost, he was blessed with Carol as his life partner, the wind beneath his wings. And all her support and love and devotion. He has a family that clearly adores him. They gave him real reasons to be such a proud father and grandfather. He pursued a career that exemplified the highest ideals of the legal profession, a career that used his formidable intellect and talents. He commanded the respect and admiration of his colleagues and everyone who sought his wise counsel, and hundreds, perhaps thousands, who benefited from his volunteer involvement in various organizations. But it would be wrong to say that life was good to Tom and say nothing else. Because a true description would be that, not that life was good to Tom, but rather Tom was good to life. He made his mark on the world and delivered in the deepest conviction that he'd leave behind a better world, better than the one he found. And one of those closest to him is his brother. And we're so honored to have him today here. And we will hear a reading from Mr. E. Michael McCann.
Thank you. My name is Edward Michael McCann, and I'm the brother of Tom. We are 4 years apart. He was born in 1940, and I was born in 1936. So he came as a child to our home. I want to tell you, it was an electric effect. My dad was a pretty strict guy. He had 2 sons and a daughter, and he was pretty demanding. But somehow, when Tom arrived, his character changed. Tom was 12 pounds, so he didn't intimidate him. That wasn't it. But there was something warming about him. There was something you liked the kid. And there was a deep love. All of us, of the 3 children and the 2 parents, really loved this kid. And I'll never forget, my mother was trying to teach him how to spell his name, T-O-M. Make a T, make an O, make an M. Pretty soon the whole family was singing to him, make a T, make an O, make an M. He's just an engaging person. You got to know him, and you knew him. It wasn't a change. A thing did happen that was have a bad impact in a lot of families. My father died when Tom was 14. I was 18. I had started college already. My brother was in college and my sister was in college. That left Tom basically alone with my mother. My mother's biggest gift was she was a woman of compassion. As a disciplinarian, no. As a well-trained in family life, no. She had just gone to high school, but she loved and she had compassion. Tom, that was tough years for Tom. He was at a Jesuit high school, which was good. They stuck their nose into his business as an only child, as a child with no parent, no father there or brothers. But Tom, those 4 years, Tom forged his own personality to a good extent. You might say, well, it would have been nice if I had been there or one of the other brothers or the sister. We were present, but not like daily like a father is, shaping what that person will be like. Somehow Tom managed that himself. It was not easy. I can remember it was a tough time. My mother was trying to be a disciplinarian. And Tom somehow forged in that years, and then he started college, went to Marquette. In that period, I was gone, my sister was gone, my brother was gone. Tom forged who he was. You say, well, he's a reflection of this or that. He's a reflection of his values that he selected and lived upon. He then went to Georgetown Law School, and was already the formed person. He went east after that and never came back. It's too bad. We love Wisconsin, but there are things about the east that are tough to compete. If I thought when I went over this and had a chance to think about my brother, when Carol gave me the call the morning of his death, I tell you, I'm 4 years his senior. Of course, I assumed that he would be speaking of me and not me of him. And it was just, when Carol told me, I couldn't form the words to respond, to talk to her. It was just, I couldn't believe it, that my younger brother was dying. It just was very hard, and it still has been very hard. It took me a couple of weeks, really, to start talking about him. I loved him deeply. All our family loved him, whatever it was. You folks knew him. There was something about Tom that was very engaging, and he was very engaging as a kid. So something I thought, well, as I looked over his life, something there that stands out, and it's been mentioned, most of the speakers have mentioned, how much time he gave to his community. And enormous. I mean, you go over it, the number of people he helped, the organizations. I touched just a little bit when he was in the Northeast. He had worked with the Boston Symphony Orchestra, Board of Overseers, and the time involved in that. He was the Norman Rockwell Foundation. I can remember visiting that foundation when I would be out there in the East visiting, and here's the Norman Rockwell Foundation. He was president of the Urban League. I don't know about you. I was in politics. Stay away from the Urban League. You got to have guts and integrity to take that job on, because you don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. So Tom had the guts to do it, and it's a tough job. Must have been challenging. I can't imagine. And he also was elected a councilman, and then became involved in planning, long-term planning. It's another way to irritate a lot of people. If you think you're going to be making decisions of changing what's going to happen in the community, you're going to find you're going to have opposition. So he did it, and he took the time. That's a lot of time to do that stuff. And that means time away, with your time off, you're spending that time instead. He went on and was vice president of public affairs at Bristol-Myers. He was also chief counsel there, and he was the director of public affairs also at the General Foods Corporation. These are tough, challenging jobs, and to go from that to do additional volunteer work is tough. And that he did, you can see all through his life. I didn't even count the organization. We get into what he did with when he was moved here, the different groups that he was with. In the later years, he was to read them: the Naples Foundation, Naples Planning Advisory Board, Board of Naples Botanical Gardens. I can remember coming to the gardens here after there was a tornado in the brush, the flood. Tramping around, my vacation was tramping around a water-soaked garden. It wasn't my idea of a vacation, that was his. And that's what we did. Knew more about flooded gardens than I did for the rest of my life. The Boys and Girls Club, the Greater Naples Leadership, the Leadership Colleague, the League of Women Voters of Corbin County, Collier County, the Collier County Citizens Council, and so on. Just time, that's generosity. That's a generous person. And most of the time, I can tell you, if I've been in government myself, most of those groups are people that are in need. You're helping people. And that's a compassion. That's, the Lord, when he spoke about helping people, Matthew says particularly, whatever you do for these, the least of mine, you do for me. And when you're working in public cases, many situations, you're working with people that don't have a lot of assets, and you're improving their situation. You're making their life better. You're serving the interests of the poor. So Tom was a human being of high quality. I don't need to tell you that. You know him. If he was a liar, he wouldn't be here. If he was a scandal, you wouldn't come. He wouldn't come and spend the time here. You came because you knew he was a decent and honorable man. He was a man of his word. If he said something, he'd do it. And he wouldn't double deal you. It's television now, there's constant scams. Who's doing the scam this week? That wasn't how what Tom was. Tom was not a person of scams. Tom was a person of integrity. What he said, he meant. Who he acted like he was. He was a good person. I can tell you that from the time he was a little kid. He wasn't a liar. He wasn't a scamp. He was a fine person in every way. One of the brothers said, I think he gave a very, very sage, said, gave me a little something to read, because it's called Carry Him On. It's sound advice. I'm not a poet, so I could never have fashioned it. But it has a lot of meaning to it. It's short. I'll read it to you. But about in reacting to his death. You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he has lived. In other words, focus on that. I remember a man telling me his wife of many years had died. Both of us had lost a wife of many years. And he said to me, I can't think about it except to say blessed I was by God that I had her all those years. I can't be unhappy because God gave me that company, and I felt the same way about my life. If you have Carol would be the same. You can only say, what can you say? God blessed him with Carol. It goes on. You can close your eyes and pray that it will come back, or you can open your eyes and see that he has left. He's not going to come back. If you hook your time into that, your plans, you're wasting your time and you're not serving anyone else. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love that you shared. In other words, his love and his generosity and the type of person that he was, to keep him going, his ideas and his thoughts, to keep life better. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday, because Tom was here and what he could be to continue the things he did, the type of person that he was, to lift the world. You can remember him and only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. If all you're going to focus on, he's gone, that's it, sad. That would be a mistake. He's gone, but what his memory gave us, the type of the person that he was, that the others can reflect it. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he would want you to do. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. Love and go on. God bless him. He was a wonderful brother, and I know he was a good friend.
I sat here wondering, what would Tom say about all this? We don't really know exactly what happens to a person when they die. Maybe he's standing right here. He certainly doesn't seem like he's gone anywhere. I think if he himself could respond to all this, he might find some comfort in the words of a certain poet by the name of Mary Lee Hall. Mary was a poet, a suffragette, and the first woman lawyer in Connecticut, admitted to the bar in 1882. Tom would really love this. She sought to find a way to think about death that allows the one who has lost someone to not be in perpetual grief, but to embrace the joys of life again. And these are her brief words. If I should die and leave you here a while, be not like others sore undone who keep long vigil by the silent dust and weep. For my sake, turn again to life and smile, nearing thy heart and trembling hand to do that which will comfort other souls than thine. Complete these dear unfinished tasks of mine, and I shall therein comfort you. I shall surely ever comfort you. We're almost done. One last thing. Before we leave, Carol made a request that I close with the prayer for Moorings Park. I wrote this a year ago at the dedication of this chapel. It's appropriate for today as well, because Tom did so much love this place. And so a prayer for our Moorings Park community. May this be a time for reflection, where we have been and where we shall go. May we be blessed with vitality as we go about our days. May we suffer no misfortune, neither in body nor spirit. May our attitudes be positive and our lives purposeful. May we find the time to perform the good deed and speak the kind word as new neighbors become our dear friends. May our leaders and our partners be inspired by the good people who live here and by the God of us all, who wants us to live in peace and harmony as residents in caring, each for the other. Amen. Go in peace.